Hello YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Those of you who are familiar with my channel are no doubt familiar with the plough mounted Seebackroscope, which has featured in several of my earlier movies. And while it's quaint and it's interesting and it's bemusing, one thing it won't do is show you the reverse side of the mobile phone that I'm using to shoot this. So we're going to move on to an impromptu, spontaneous, handheld Seebackroscope, because a movie that I posted yesterday about faux Celtic facadism drew a comment from VB Ed all the way over there in Perth in Western Australia, and he wants to know, how do I manage with no editing software in a mobile phone to pause the movie and change the shot without having the phone software automatically end the movie 30 seconds after I've pushed the pause button. When I want to move around or set something up or show that something has changed. And the trick is, just above the pause button on this ancient phone that's got physical buttons, there's a navigation ring, and if you push the top of the navigation ring, it takes the lens into full telephoto, and if you push the bottom of the navigation ring, it brings it back to a standard lens. And what that means is that you can hold your thumb against the front of the phone and put your finger around underneath the phone and have the phone resting on the finger that's touching the pause button and the next finger along, stabilised by your thumb, so you're basically holding it in a tripod. And when you go to squeeze the pause button, it doesn't wriggle the lens direction too much, and because of, you know, the camera's on a piece of meat that's connected to your arm and your shoulder's connected to your head, it holds the talking head pretty much in frame, and you can change the scene with no big drama. And that little navigation ring, if you have the camera in pause and you leave the camera and don't touch anything, when it's been in pause for 35 seconds, it'll automatically end the movie. But if during that 35 seconds you change the lens setting, now if you want to keep the lens on standard, all you have to do is push the zoom out end of the navigation ring, and that will zero the pause counter. So if I have 5 minutes between ending one shot and starting the next shot, then at least 3 times every minute, ideally 4 times, make sure that it doesn't kill a movie on me, I will have pushed the navigation ring. Now, the magic of the handheld Seebackroscope, which transforms a camera looking at a mirror, and we have yet another mirror here, and in that you can actually see the back of the camera. Behold, it's not actually terribly difficult. There is the navigation ring, right? Up at the top is the stop filming button. Underneath the navigation ring is the pause button, and there is the telephoto end, and there is the standard end with the pause button under there. So by due and careful manipulation of the buttonry, the old-fashioned Nokia 6120 Classic allows me to put the camera in places and operate it that I simply could not afford modern high-techery which would do those jobs. It's light enough that I can talk to the camera one-handed, either hand, and as long as I can remember to keep pushing that navigation ring and re-zeroing the pause counter, I can do all sorts of things in between takes, and that means that I can do, you know, moderately complicated things in terms of moving myself around to start a new shot, or organising a few simple props. And as for the rest of it, just pretend that you've got an old-fashioned Super 8 camera. And in the old days, unless you had the editing equipment, and I used to have it, but it was often convenient to try and shoot a 3-minute movie and shoot in sequence and edit in the camera, so you plan the whole movie out in your head before you start. Yesterday I had a few sort of vague ideas, and I shot that movie Faux Celtic Facadism. I think I shot it 4 times, and the first 3 times various things went wrong and it didn't work. The 4th time I tried all the ways of making it that didn't work. I'd figured out what would work, and it involved having me sort of do TARDIS-like jumps up the street and back down Grey Street. So that's what I did. And if it had gone wrong at the end of it, if I'd done something unsalvageable, it had so much promise I would probably retraced my steps and done the whole thing again, because I was killing 3 or 4 hours in Glen Innes while my car was being pre-registration checked. And making a YouTube movie was a good way to take my mind off the idea that it might actually cost a bit of money to get it to go for another 12 months. So, there you go, VB Ed. My secret is out. I use an ancient mobile phone that still has buttons on it, so I can feel the buttons, and they make a very faint click, so I know that I've actually gone from shooting to pause and back to shooting. And I dread the day that this phone dies, because when I thought it had died, I couldn't sign back into my YouTube channel because I couldn't scroll far enough across or down to get into the password entry box. And while I thought the phone was useless for getting onto YouTube, I actually went to town and bought a newer Nokia Telstra prepaid mobile, and it's half touchscreen, and its pause button is on the touchscreen. And if you think it's going to be difficult to learn how to reach around the far side of the phone and feel for the pause button, believe me, that's really, really easy compared to having to remember whereabouts on a touchscreen that you can't see the pause icon is located. But that's what I'm going to have to do when this phone dies. So in the meantime, that's how the magic is manufactured. Shoot in sequence, edit in camera, feel the pause button on the other side of the phone, brace the phone against your thumb so that it doesn't wriggle around too much while the circuitry is actually pausing. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.